Hello, everyone, and welcome back to 4pixels. Coco and Kimi are here with our guests, Buttons and Layflay. We are continuing the letter. And I wanted to take a moment at the beginning of this episode. I meant to do it before, but I completely forgot. I had jotted down some ideas about what I think is going on, and I'm just gonna read it off. So I had a thought, and please help me remember it the next time, but one line that stuck out to me during Zachary's chapter was that Ghost Lady seemed to have a hatred specifically aimed towards Hana. And now we know that the miasma hanging around Luke is actually the Ghost Lady and not just an anime thing. We also know that Ghosty Lady is the woman depicted in the stained glass, presumably Charlotte. I'm actually going back on that, but I'll see that afterwards. We also know that Luke looks an awful lot like the dude in said stained glass. Maybe she thinks Luke is him, and that's why she hates Hana. Her spirit remained for whatever reason, and she expected his to remain as well, or at least sees Luke as his return. I mentioned this to Kimi before, but from the descriptions in that last scene in Hana's chapter, it kind of seemed like she was trying to possess her, which is kind of hilarious considering the story we opened up her chapter with, which was you, Layflay, talking about that time you were possessed.
Yep.
But going back to my saying that she's might be Charlotte, I'm actually stepping back away from that again because we do know that she can take on whatever appearance that she wants.
Yeah.
And it just seems strange to me that her default appearance would be a pale woman with long black hair. So now what I'm thinking is that maybe that person used to be a servant in the mansion who was in love with the lord of the house.
Or that the Lord of the House slept with and then kept denying relations with.
Yeah.
Much like Luke and, what's her face?
Rochelle.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but so full of himself. Exactly the kind of person I'll happily leave to die in a ditch somewhere.
Of course, sir. Why
Foreshadowing?
didn't I think of it that way?
Hoping.
I know, right? But even someone as capable as you is bound to have a few lapses. No harm done, Daisy. Let's move on from this.
Does Daisy have any specific symbolism?
Purity.
Hmm.
Primarily purity. There's probably more. I can look it up real quick.
Well, if you're going to put it like that, then I guess there's nothing left for us to talk about.
So, Daisy symbolizes innocence and purity. In Norse mythology, Daisy was Freya's sacred flower. Freya is the goddess of love, beauty, fertility, and as such, the Daisy came to symbolize childbirth, motherhood, and new beginnings.
Hmm.
So-
I figured as much.
He could more or less be calling her Mother Hen.
Awkward. The whole exchange is nothing but an awkward display of fake pleasantries. One that brings much agony to the very pride I've willingly held back a while ago. I might need a drink later, so I can forget any of this ever happened. Who would have thought the time would come when I'd meet someone tougher to handle than Isabella? Miracles of miracles, I swear. Though, to my surprise, he proffers me a hand shortly before they leave. For a shake, I realize, after a long minute of staring at it. I accept it, albeit half-heartedly. But all of the goodwill that small gesture represents melts into thin air when he winks at me. Winks. The gall of this man. However, there's no moment to ponder about it. Seconds later, the guy at the counter waves me over and gives me a free meal for doing that. And
Yeah,
hands me a paper bag as soon as I've paid.
I wish.
He offers me another smile before I leave. Normally I'd return it simply for the sake of returning it, or I don't at all, with the latter happening more commonly. For the time being, I do so freely. After that encounter and the scene we've caused, seeing a friendly gesture being extended to me, albeit from a person I barely know on a personal level, it feels like a reassurance, despite bearing no promise of better days. I take what little I can of it with me as I step out into the night.
Did that glitch?
I just
There we go.
Okay,
Perfect. Beautiful. I love
Hold
it.
up. Hold up. I gotta do something very important. This is for science. This is 100% for science, if I could use my brain. Baby steps. You can keep reading.
Oh, okay.
You'll see.
Tuesday, October 25th. While lining up to buy dinner, Rebecca saw Kylie Suarez with a suspicious man. Assuming it was a kidnapping, Rebecca elected to take matters into her own hands, only to find that the man was the girl's godfather, Luke Wright, and embarrassed Rebecca apologized afterwards, much to her chagrin.
There, I did the thing.
Do you screen cap?
Yeah.
A cloudless night sky greets me when I walk out of the cafe. Beyond the tall buildings, a blanket of stars spreads out before me. Isabella once told me that the best place to view it is someplace outside the city, away from the noise and obtrusive lights. She'd seen it once in her mum's hometown, and another time in the university she used to attend. Then she asked if it's possible to try it out here sometime. I agreed with her at the time, if only because she appeared excited at the mere prospect of it. We made those little plans along with Zachary and Ashton. Though, up until now, we never got around to it. Even so, I find myself enjoying this, despite being told it's only half the experience. Little things, you know. Stuff you learn to appreciate when you're alone. Because at certain times you get to meet people who are unfortunately born with the innate talent to ruin the mood and the scene with their mere existence alone.
Ashton?
Wow, two of us went completely different directions with that.
For example, the very driver of the car fast approaching my direction. Luckily, he doesn't notice me. But the fleeting moment we pass each other by gives me a brief glance at the people he's with.
Oh.
Kylie sitting on the back seat with a serving of bread pudding in her hand. And beside him, it must be his wife.
Maybe your foreshadowing was on point, Coco.
Maybe. He takes a turn and disappears at the nearest corner.
Only his wife could look that bedraggled and beaten down.
But throughout the night, the cursory glimpse of all things to bother me has left me wondering what kind of person his wife is. And more than that, is a silent prayer to the universe. I hope I don't ever cross paths with that douche again.
I have news for you.
So one of the possible ending pairings for this is Luke and Rebecca.
Well, what?
Yep.
You know, from the whole what?
After having such an uneventful day, anyone will think nothing will surprise me anymore. But here I am, standing at the top of the stairwell, watching an odd scene unfold before me. Relief crosses my mind first, followed by confusion.
What is she doing there?
Although given what happened this morning, the question feels a bit inappropriate to ask directly. What's important is Isabella's here. She's sitting cross-legged on the hallway, just right in front of her room, with several papers and folders scattered about. Each of them seems as important as the next. More than once, upon giving the scene a quick scan, I spot Briar Realty's logo at the topmost area of the pages. Everything considered, it looks like a mess made by a third grader working on crunch time. The landlady will have a few things to say about this when she finds out. I have a few things to say about this myself, in fact. But something in the calm, focused manner she holds herself, at present, keeps me from disturbing her with that reminder. She's going through each paper with this intensity. Her brow furrowed, lips in a tight line, both hands moving in precise movements as she shifts through each sheet. When she finds something of note, she moves closer, nose almost touching whatever paper she's holding, and grabs her phone to call someone.
Hello. Sorry to call you this late. There's something I just want to confirm, if that's okay. Yeah. Oh. Okay. Thanks anyway. Not that one either.
It's a cycle. She goes through call after call, then after the last one ends, she shuffles through the pile again and dials another number. Is it work? How long are you just standing there watching this? I've never seen her this engrossed with her own work before. Otherwise, she would have noticed my presence the moment I've reached our floor. After the 9th call, she still appears as oblivious to it as when I arrived. When she lets out a loud sigh this time, I immediately take that as an opportunity to interrupt.
Isabella, you know the house rules here.
At once her head jerks back and hits the concrete wall behind her with a thump. There's the Isabella I know. Glad it's still there. I allow her a moment to nurse it before speaking again.
Becca, you're late.
Yeah, I ran into a little trouble at the cafe. But I brought food for the two of us, if you haven't eaten anything yet.
As anticipated, she grins once I raise the bag of food I'm holding. Yet it doesn't reach her eyes. There's nothing of the cheerful glint in it this time. Just a hollow tone for the sake of being polite. Ashton's right. Something's happened.
Yeah, maybe later. I've gotta finish this first. Just leave it here. I'll eat it once I'm done. Thanks, Becca.
You can't eat this here. You know how the landlady would react. Why are you even working outside? Your room's right there.
I know. Sorry. It just feels stuffy in my apartment right now. I'll go back inside once everything's been aired out. I promise.
That has never bothered you before.
Well, it bothers me now.
Oh, really? Just now? I find that hard to believe.
Yeah? Shouldn't you be happy? I mean, you've been complaining even if it's not your room. Now I know how you're feeling when it's messy, so I'm going to clean. Isn't that a good thing?
In spite of what's supposed to be good news, an exhale comes from me, drawn out and slow.
It's a good thing, Isabella. Believe me. But you're as bad as Zachary at lying. What's really going on?
She hastily averts her eyes, a surefire indicator this is going to be one of those lengthy conversations that can possibly end with the other person angry. Again. It's one thing I'd like to avoid tonight at all costs. Still, I've made a promise to Ashton and Zachary. If she didn't talk to them, who else is she going to talk to? If she keeps this all to herself, who knows what might happen?
Isabella, you can tell me. Is it about your family?
A slight movement of her lips. Although a frown, it's a reaction at least. I'm getting there.
Rose?
She merely shakes her head. Just a little more.
come on. I know something happened. I don't know if it's because of Rose, but I know it's related to her somehow. You weren't here when I visited this morning, and both Zachary and Ashton are worried about you. If you don't want to tell them, you can tell me. Does it have something to do with work? Office?
If I didn't know her, I might have missed it. She shifts then, her fists clenching tight and teeth biting her lower lip. And there's fear. The look of terror in her eye in her is the last thing I expect to see out of everything. Her mouth trembles briefly before she opens them. When she finally voices it out, the words simply spill out of her mouth. One after another. All of it. True to what I've promised her, I listen. Because this is something she's been keeping to herself, even from the two most dependable people I know. The fact she chooses to tell me this speaks a lot to me.
Becca, she was there again. Last night? In the office? Boss passed me all of Rose's workload yesterday. For the Ermengarde mansion. I had to stay late to finish them all. And then, when I was about to go home, I saw her. I saw her again. She was standing in front of me again last night, Becca. I couldn't get away. She was blocking the door. If I hadn't hidden myself, even if I made the tiniest noise, if she found me. Becca, she almost did.
She did, in fact.
If she saw me under my table, I think that would have been the end of it. I'm scared. I'm so scared I won't be able to do anything.
By the end, her hands are trembling, and her breathing comes out in rasping intervals. For a long moment, I let the silence stretch out between us, let her sobs fill it instead. But even as her soft whimpers die down minutes later, there's a heaviness hanging in the air. Not just from her, but also from me. From my exasperation over this whole matter, from my own frustrations over her stupid superstitions, when she could do us all a favor and grow a backbone.
Wow.
She may be young, but she's no longer that young.
Becca, no.
But she saw her.
Yeah,
Like,
it's about time to put an end to this.
No.
She can't keep going on like this. She's still got plenty of years to live out. What if she goes home? What if we're no longer there to keep her fears in line with what's real? What would she do then? I'm more afraid from her, for what kind of that kind of imagination will do to her than of what some imaginary monster could. But with the manner she's looking at me right now, there's an expectation in it, a hope and a plea sewn together. She wants me to believe her this time. If it's like that, then what am I supposed to say now? What she wants to hear or what she needs to?
You don't know what she needs to hear because you don't believe her.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
accurate.
I'm all for top.
First option.
Yep.
Yep.
Because, okay, even if it's just she's having, like, a panic attack or something, or she's freaking out or having some sort of moment, like, it would still be the best option to calmly approach it instead of chiding her for it.
Yes.
Yeah. Like
Mhm.
even if it wasn't the case that there's a ghost trying to kill her, like clearly if she keeps having these attacks or whatever, I mean clearly something to worry and not just to be like, grow up. That's
Yeah.
not helpful at all.
One of the most important things that we're actually taught at work when we are evaluating potential donors or donor-related situations is that when they start going on about things that are tangential, you don't ever offer solutions, you offer your ear and ask them to continue speaking. Because more often than not, it's they want to be heard, not they want a solution.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense.
True.
I'm glad they gave us an option there.
Yeah,
I was
was
worried
afraid.
about that.
Yeah, I was afraid she was just going to go into it again because I mean,
Yeah.
really, I actually have to say I had a better image of Becca,
Same. I did
and I'm
too.
just like,
I've been kind of disappointed with her.
Yeah, because-
I'm getting more disappointed with Becca than I am with Luke, and that really bothers me.
yeah, because like Becca seems so nice, but now that we're from her point of view, it's like she really looks at Isabella as like some child that she has to take care of, and
Yeah.
it's just like.
I mean, in all fairness, I had a feeling I was going to be disappointed by the last three characters because all three of them tend to be more on the asshole side of things, whereas the characters leading up to Marianne were like the characters who potentially could believe what's going on, or they're pleasantly oblivious to what's going on. And then Marianne was like that crossroad between the two.
Yeah,
And-
She
Marianne
had
was-
some harsh moments too towards Isabella.
Yeah, she had like some moments, some like internal thoughts that I was like, really, Marianne? But like Becca just took the crown out of her because I was like, damn, Becca, chill.
My crown
Definitely.
now.
It's definitely going from easily slated morally good to the morally gray to the morally wrong.
Yeah, and like,
And I'm interested to see what has led Becca to getting to this resigned motherhood.
Well, we know her relationship with her own parents are kind of frayed.
Yeah.
And
So maybe-
we do know also. Sorry, what were you saying?
So I was just gonna say, so maybe like this obsession with infantilizing is, though to be fair, this is actually my one of the big like concerns I have with this game is that she's not the only one who tends to infantilize Isabella. She definitely does it the most, but I feel that like at least with Becca, since we see her relationship with her parents isn't so great, that maybe she's sort of trying to superimpose that onto Isabella.
mhm.
I mean, I will, because how old is Becca again?
Becca is 29, so there's only like a 3-year difference between them.
Yeah, like I will understand from some of the other characters that are actually like 30 something that see look at Isabella and like, okay, she's more of a child for them, but Becca it's only like 3 years older.
Yeah.
So like that's not a lot of difference to be treating her like that. Like what?
And also, you have to remember that Becca is in a profession with, from what I can tell, older kids, not like elementary kids, but she's in a profession where that mothering comes in handy. But it's something I noticed even with my friends who became teachers is sometimes they have a hard time separating work from personal life,
Yep.
and they tend to mother their friends like their kids. And it's like, okay, back off, please, because you are my friend. You are like 4 months younger than me.
It's kind of
You
insulting.
need to back off.
Yeah.
It's
and
kind of
also-
insulting. I'm 29, thank you.
And also we know that she is kind of salty because of the whole Ashton Isabella thing.
Yeah.
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 Sorry,
She's-
Kanetsu,
she's-
our ship won't be sailing.
But
Like,
I
because
personally I'm personally more worried about how much like I said, I think we're on a downhill slope right now with our expectations and characters. Because pretty much with the start of Becca kind of got a bit of a feeling of, okay, she's not exactly going to be someone who's going to make a lot of decisions that we're going to like, and she's
Except
going to
for
expose a bit
kicking
more
Luke in the
character.
nuts. That was
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the decision.
That's gonna be the high point of Becca is fucking kicking Luke in the nuts. Like, she's gonna be harsher with Isabella because she doesn't believe in the ghosts and all that kind of stuff, and then Ashton is gonna get worse because he doesn't believe in the ghosts or anything like that until whatever turning point he makes.
I gotta chime in. I actually have super high expectations for Ashton. I think
Oh
I'm
boy,
the only one.
you're
in the
gonna be
group.
let down. I just have this
Damn.
sinking feeling that you're gonna be let down.
No,
We'll see.
Becca's the one I felt the least interested in when we started the whole like
Mhm.
episode, not episode, but like the whole
Series?
game.
Or
Becca was the one I did not care about because I was like, oh great, we got the mom friend, freaking awesome. She's just going to be the most annoying woman in the entire damn thing.
mhm.
But because the trope of the mom friend being like, I don't believe this, is really really hard.
True.
But I feel like we're still really early in Becca's story too.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, yeah.
hers, I think is definitely the longest one we've gone through.
So I just gotta say one
say
thing. Like as I told you, I have this one friend who I talk with. I like bought the game for them, and they beat it in like just super fast. One thing they said that worries me is that they said that Becca's chapter was one of the hardest. So I feel like her chapter is actually one of the most complicated.
Well, and Becca herself seems like a very complicated character because you have this woman she obviously cares about her kids, cares about setting a good example. I mean, even in the dialogue options where we got the option to be a douchebag,
Mm-hmm.
her primary concern was keep the kids safe.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you obviously have that dynamic. She has this really strained relationship with her parents that makes her long to be the child. She cannot allow herself to be the child because she's always being put in positions by her other friends to be the mom friend.
Mm-hmm.
And then she runs into a situation with Isabella where her own opinion is, I need to get this woman ready for the real world.
Mhm.
And that's going to be an absolute clusterfuck as we continue through and through.
Yeah. When she realizes, oh hey, maybe weird shit really is happening.
I also don't think it's right for Ashton to keep forcing her to be the mom friend either.
Yeah. Like I said, Ashton, I have a feeling when we get to his arc, like, there's gonna be some redeeming qualities, yes, but for the most part, it's gonna be he's a fucking douchebag a lot of the time because he's another one of the people who's a skeptic in the group who's just like, I don't think these things are happening. I think you're just like not taking care of yourself or whatever. It's just like you don't have room to talk. You sleep in your car, you asshole.
I don't think Ashton's a true skeptic though.
Well, we know that something. We do know that something happened with Becca to make him change, but before that, he was skeptical.
Yeah.
But even like, anyway, we've talked enough about this.
Yeah, we should keep going.
Let's keep going.
Otherwise, we'll never end.
As much as I want to set her straight, a reprimand isn't what she needs right now. With that pouty face she's giving me, I doubt it'll even end well if I push it. I know her. When she wants to be stubborn, she's stubborn. A little like you. But there are moments when she can be acquiescing too. Times where she'll be more accepting of what I tell her, despite her inclination to disagree with it. That talk can wait. In the meantime, I'll be the ear that listens to her without judging her, without criticizing her, despite my own opinions on it.
You should have called me.
Exactly what Buttons was saying earlier. She stares at me like I've grown another head, and the laughter slips out before I can stop myself.
There? I can't do that! What will you do? Hit her with a book? You'll be dead before that happens. And
Hey, you never know.
that isn't what I'm talking about. After you got out, you should have phoned me. You didn't have to go to Zachary's.
The corners of her mouth curl up, a sheepish smile, by general definition, but this is Isabella. Her smiles are never half-hearted, never lacks her high spirits. In spite of this, I know everything is going to be okay. Somehow. After all, she's learned how to pick herself up long ago, long before we met. So why are you always babying her?
oh, yeah. Sorry. I don't even remember how I ended up in Zach's place. I was in a hurry to get out of the office, and it was already late. Besides, I don't really think you'll believe me if I wake you up over something like that.
That's beside the point. True or not, there are people who will always be concerned about you. There's Zachary, but he's the first person you went to, and you didn't tell him anything. You just slept there. There's Ashton too, and me. But how do you think I'll be able to explain to your aunt or your family if you suddenly disappeared? Think about that.
Right. I'll remember that next time.
Then she grins. Playful and mischievous, a preamble to an old banter. It's still not quite there, still not quite her usual self, but with it, I know we're bound to get her back soon.
Mom.
I told you not to call me that.
I send an elbow to her side for added measure, but when laughter follows the familiar gesture, none of it is unexpected. This is what's comfortable. This is how we found an equal ground despite our stark differences. So, for the moment, I accept things as they are. Afterwards, a hush stretches out before us. For Isabella, this is rare. This isn't her. Yet, in this moment, as she fiddles with the edges of another paper near her, as she hugs her knees close to herself and lets a pensive expression linger on her, it feels strangely fitting. As if this is where everything's supposed to lead if we allowed it long ago. Seconds later, the moment is broken by the sound of a door easing open and a voice begging some little peace. And with that, we will end the episode right here. Thank you guys for joining us, and see you next time.
Bye bye.
Hey, get in your apartment. Someone's trying to sleep here.
Mary Pickford.
Mary Pickford. ¡Oh!
Con esto se va a terminar rompiendo su computador.
¡Levántate!
Es la más que dormirse.
¡Agárralo, agárralo! ¡Ah!
Con esto se está yendo Super Saiyan.
Anyway, when you start sexy hiking, standing next to it might take you an hour to get to it. A lot of people never got past it. You prod and you poke at it, exploring the limits of your reach and your strength, trying to find a way up and over. There's a sense of truth in that lack of compromise. Most obstacles in video
¡Ay,
games
estoy
you can be
sudando!
completely
¡Ay, no!